Thanks everyone for joining. We'll get started in just a couple of moments. Greetings, I'm Brooks Barron. I'm the Environmental Justice Minister for the United Church of Christ, and I am fortunate to be part of a larger team that organized this webinar. They say that by the company you keep, one can tell the kind of life that you lead, and I am indeed leading a terrific life today. A big thanks to Interfaith Power and Life for convening the sponsoring organizations for this webinar. Those organizations include the Islamic Society of North America, the Unitarian Universalist Association, United Women in Faith, Global Ministries of the United Methodist Church, the Environmental and Energy Study Institute, and the United Church of Christ. In a moment, I will introduce our featured speakers for today, but before we jump into that, Imam Safed Kadovich from the Islamic Society of North America will help ground and orient us today with an opening reflection. For the Islamic Society of North America, Kadovich heads their Washington, D.C. office that bears the title Interfaith, Community Alliances, and Government Relations. I'll turn things over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Salam alaikum, peace and greetings to all of you and to all those who are participating in this webinar. It's indeed a wonderful blessing to be with you, to be with people who are all about environmental justice and about our future. I'm actually eagerly waiting at this moment to hear news of the birth of my our fifth grandchild. And I'm wondering, and I'm thinking about that in this moment as we come together to find ways in which we can make our physical facilities of our religious nonprofit organizations and other nonprofit organizations more environmentally friendly and more moved towards renewable energies. There was a long, hard fight, and all of you were a part of that fight to finally get the historic passing of the IRA bill and associated legislation. We are now at the moment where we can provide resources through governmental funding for our religious and small nonprofits in order to revitalize their facilities, to replace and renew their appliances so that they may allow the precious dollars which they are using and all of our organizations are using in so many ways to serve our values-driven mission, to allow more of those resources to be devoted to that. Indeed, we are facing an existential climate emergency, and each and every one of us are part of the solution to that emergency. And we're very pleased and thankful that together in partnership, private-public partnership is the key to solving this problem, that this particular program, which we're going to hear about today, is something that will enable our congregations, our faith-based organizations to be able to move in that direction in a clear path forward. So thank you again for all the co-sponsors and Interfaith Power and Light for convening us together, and looking forward with all of you to listening and learning as how we can benefit from these governmental programs that were long and hard fought for. Blessings to those who are in the good fight. Let us keep it going. Peace.
Thank you for those words, and we celebrate with you in the celebration of new life. I can't think of a better way to begin today. I'll now introduce our featured speakers for today. First, we'll have Sarah Paulos, who is the Community Engagement and Programs Manager for Interfaith Power and Light. She was awakened to climate action after a proposal to build a coal plant in her community in Iowa. Her response was to create the Cool Congregations program to help members of her home congregation reduce their energy use in caring for our common home. Cool Congregations is now a national program of interfaith power and light. Prior to her present position, Sarah served for 12 years as the program and outreach coordinator for Iowa Interfaith Power and Light. We will also hear today from Tom Hackley, who is a member of People's Church of Kalamazoo, a Unitarian Universalist society located in Kalamazoo, Michigan. People's Church is an IPL certified cool congregation at the 20% reduction level. Tom is a retired urban planner, teacher, and home energy auditor. He is now engaged in stirring the pot for climate justice. He'll share with us about his Green Team's work and reasoning in creating a plan for their congregation to reach zero carbon by 2030. Today, we also have with us Jerry Lawson, who is the National Manager for the EPA's Energy Star programs for the faith, community, and small businesses. Previously, Lawson served as Executive Director for Conservation, Customer Service, Rates, and Forecasting at the Lower Colorado River Authority. He also served as the Deputy Director for Conservation and Renewable Resources at the Arkansas Department of Energy. And he additionally served as the director of the City of Austin Resource Management Department, which successfully substituted energy efficiency to prevent construction of a new 500 megawatt coal-fired power plant. Let's get started with you, Sarah. Can you share with us how we got into this conversation and why it's so important?
Thanks, Brooke. Appreciate that introduction. And thank you, Safet, for your encouraging words. Really appreciate that. How to say your question again, Brooks?
Well, to share with us how we got to this conversation today and why it's so important.
Oh my goodness, it is so important. And yes, we got here today to be able to talk about this thanks to all of the faith communities and individuals who worked so hard to get these laws passed so that we can now take advantage of them. And you know, these climate care provisions that are in the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, they are historic and they're imperative in addressing the urgent moral issue of climate justice. They provide people of faith and conscience with an opportunity to help bring about a just transition to the clean energy economy that we all want, that's based on the values that we all share, caring for one another and for our common home. And you know, much of the solution to the climate crisis is doing just two things: getting the carbon out of our electricity supply, and then electrifying everything we can: transportation, water heating and space heating, our cooking stoves. The Inflation Reduction Act basically puts these solutions like wind, solar, batteries, geothermal heat pumps, and about a dozen other climate solutions on sale at 30% off. And nonprofits like houses of worship can take advantage of this sale for the first time. Now, a little update here. The IRS is predicting that by May or June of this year, they'll be ready to tell us how nonprofits such as houses of worship will be able to access the federal financial assistance, which is known as direct pay. And the DOE Nonprofit Pilot Materials Program grant guidelines are expected later in March or in April. And the Clean Energy Tax Credits guidelines, those are expected in May or June. And we'll announce these resources as soon as we know about them on our IPL resource page and through our emails and social media. So be sure you're signed up to get IPL emails. And we'll be sharing that link in the chat and in the follow-up email. We'll be sending a follow-up email with the links to everything that we'll be talking about today, including that IPL resource page. When you get it, you may want to bookmark it. We'll be keeping that updated. Now, the topic of today's webinar, Planning Your Congregation's Energy Future, will address the first step in making a plan, which is benchmarking your facility in order to set a goal. Many faith communities are choosing a goal of zero carbon by 2030. And today you'll hear from Tom Hackley at People's Church, where they created a very workable plan to reach that goal. And they've already reduced their emissions by 20% in their first 3 years working with mostly volunteer labor. So just to review, the first step to setting a goal for your plan is to take a snapshot of your facility's energy use before you make changes. Why do you do this? So you can measure your progress towards your goal against this before snapshot or benchmark. Sharing your progress with your congregation's leadership and members is important because it will convince them to continue supporting and financing your plan. The road to zero emissions, or whatever your goal is, can take several years, and you need to keep up the enthusiasm of your congregation with regular progress reports. Now, you're going to hear about a couple of ways to benchmark your congregation's energy use after we hear from Tom Hackley from People's Church in Kalamazoo. So, Tom, I'd like to turn it over to you to just tell us a little bit about your plan at your congregation.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, our church is about 250 members. We're not wealthy, but we managed to keep ourselves above water. And when I first joined it, I wanted to be on the Green Sanctuary Committee, so I joined that. And they asked me what I was interested in, and I said, well, renewable energy. And they said, well, come in with some ideas. And so the next meeting I came in and I said, well, why don't we challenge the congregation to get to net zero by 2030? I was sort of expecting pushback on that, and everybody said, oh, great idea, go ahead and run with it. So I've been running ever since. That was in 2019, beginning of 2019. So we started with a challenge. We started basically defining the end point, and then formed a net zero task force and talked about it for quite a while, brainstorming this and that and the other thing before I finally said, well, I think we need to have a plan here. We had done a lot of exploring, benchmarking our utilities usage and walking around the building and finding all the energy leaks and so forth, but didn't really, have a direction. So the challenge gave us a direction. That vision was of an all-electric church with solar power, an efficient building envelope, heat pumps instead of gas-consuming appliances running it, and a healthy, safe building. And we figured that by the time we got to the end of 2030, we probably were going to have to buy some carbon offsets in order to kind of meet our final goal. We won't know. We just keep plugging along and working towards it. So the benchmarking process was really kind of we didn't use a formal benchmarking program. We talked about it. We looked at it. We saw what we had. We had people on our committee who were pretty experienced, and so our beginning point was utility bills and usage, the efficiency of the HVAC system, and an evaluation of the envelope. And I'm going to share with you the planning document that we put together. So you can see where, how we approached this all. I'm going to have to scroll down as I go along, but basically we looked at the years up to 2030. We were trying to be as efficient as possible in the use of our resources. So we wanted to not have an expenditure that wasn't timely. In other words, we would replace the heating system when the old heating system was ready to be replaced, not before. So we have these trigger events across the top. What happens, and then what do we do? Down the side, we have various activities that have gone on. So our initial evaluation, then efficiency improvements as we were looking at it, down through the envelope of the building, looking at the walls, the roof, and so forth, and seeing what we could do. Our evaluation narrowed it down to what were the most important and the best payback items that we could do. So we, for instance, thought that the roof was going to be the biggest payback. Turned out after the evaluation that the walls of the perimeter rooms, because they're a larger surface area and they were uninsulated completely, that we would do better to work on those first. So that's what we've been doing. Insulating from the inside of the building and working our way out. So what I want to share, and I think what Sarah was really interested in, is this matrix that we put together with showing our trigger events, showing the years and what was going to be happening there, and then all the parts of the building that we wanted to work on. And the things that, as you see here, if it's shaded in the light gray, those are things where we're actively working. The ones that are not shaded at this point are on hold. So we're just taking it a year at a time. I just submitted a budget for next year, about $3,500 is what I'm asking for. That'll get the last of our perimeter rooms finished. And then we're going to probably start on putting some heat pumps in those individual rooms and taking out the pipes for the old heating system. So it's, excuse me. My timer went off. I guess I'm done. So that's basically the framework for what we're doing. I think it's a pretty good model. Every church will be different. You're going to have different priorities. You're going to have different kinds of systems in place. Your structure is going to be different. But if you kind of take it by building component and year by year, you can get it done without breaking the bank. And that was our whole approach. Stage it, leverage it with grants, syncing it with replacement schedules of components that we knew were going to wear out, and start with the biggest payback first, so that we were earning money on our savings. That's it. My time's up, so it's back to you, Sarah.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Do you want to? Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciated the fact that Tom's working with a congregation that doesn't have a lot of money, and they've made a very good plan and they've already got progress towards it. So you don't have to have a lot of money or expertise to be able to do this. I just want to encourage you to make it happen. And now I'm going to share some slides too. So People's Church is an IPL certified cool congregation at the 20% level. And here is a slide of the workmen installing the solar on their roof. And You can read their story, their full story, which includes that awesome matrix and more about what they've done. The link will go out in the follow-up email to all attendees. And as your congregation reduces, consider getting certified as an IPL, cool congregation, as a way of sharing your progress with your congregation's members and leadership. So to review, the first step in making a plan is, excuse me, is to take a snapshot of your facility's energy use before you make changes. You can measure progress towards your goal against this before snapshot or benchmark and share it with your congregation to keep them excited about supporting your plan. One moment, please. I'm having a little trouble getting my slides to go forward. No, this isn't working. Sorry about that. I'm not sure exactly how to share my slides. Let me try it again. I'll bring them up. Okay.
Sarah, if that doesn't work, I can share them on my my computer for you, and you can just tell me when to advance them.
Okay, great.
It looks like,
Is it showing now?
yeah, we're
Great.
seeing, yeah, it looks like you just need to put it in the slideshow format, but we're seeing them.
Oh, now it's forwarding. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for your help. So we're fortunate to have Jerry Lawson here to tell us about EPA's Energy Star Portfolio Manager. That's the gold standard tool for measuring energy use in your congregation. It takes a little time to learn, but it's really worth it. It gives you important information to base your energy reduction plan on. It's a fantastic resource. I encourage you to use it, and Jerry will talk about it in just a minute. And for smaller congregations or congregations without the capacity to learn how to use that portfolio manager tool, or if you just want a quick tool to measure your carbon footprint, consider using IPL's Cool Congregations tool. It's tailored especially for congregations. It measures the carbon emissions of many things, your facility, the amount of fossil fuel used to heat, cool, and power your buildings, plus water, waste, and recycling. It measures transportation, which we're getting upgraded by next week, and food and procurement. And just a note here, the calculator is preset with default based on average facilities your size in your location. It's optional to enter all of that information. And the beauty of the tool is this: if you're most interested in your gas and electric use, you can just enter your own total gas and electric and download a handy report to get a quick snapshot of those emissions. And you can do it again after you've made upgrades to your facility and download a progress report that looks like this that you can share with your congregation. Now, if you don't yet have a team of people at your congregation to take on this task, I encourage you to download IPL's handy startup guide with advice on how to get organized and start a green team. And the EPA guide for congregations is also a fantastic resource. Thanks to Jerry for allowing IPL to co-brand it. The links to these resources are in the chat and in the follow-up email. I highly encourage you to use this action workbook. And a reminder, this is what the spreadsheet looks like that IPL has put together with the resources all listed here for federal funding for your energy work at your congregation. And this spreadsheet can be accessed from our resource page that you'll get a link to. And this resource sheet is going to be kept updated. So you want to be checking back frequently on this particular resource. So now I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you, Jerry, to tell us about Portfolio Manager. Thank you so much.
Okay. And you see my screen.
Looks good.
Okay, great. Okay, well, first, I want to thank everyone. There's so many of you in the audience, and certainly the co-sponsors who over the years have done so much that we on staff can't do to support environmental protection. We're in a good spot to do what we can, but you can speak in ways we can't and in places we can't. So I want to thank you for all you did for the IRA, which is going to benefit all of us. The testimony, the witnessing that I've seen over the years at EPA and elsewhere. And I'll also say thank you for our prayers. I know that there's been a good deal of that go on over the years. I'll just point out here that we have almost 41,000 buildings, including houses of worship, that have been certified Energy Star with Energy Star, meaning they're in the upper quartile of energy efficiency for their facility type. We do certification through Portfolio Manager. It's free, online, it's secure. And our motto for years has been, you can't manage what you don't measure. So here's a link to starting benchmarking. The idea here is on a 1 to 100 scale. It's pretty easy to understand where your facility stands once you have benchmarked. 75 and higher, when verified by a licensed professional, is eligible for certification. Now, with benchmarking, what you're doing is comparing your house of worship to a national sample of houses of worship. So it's apples to apples. If you're in a congregation that has multiple sites, you can look at them individually or as a group and see where your priorities are. So you can look at the individual building. If you have more than one facility, look at it all at once. You can compare yourself to the national median, identifying and addressing potential problems. We have had congregations that have identified a water leak or some other issue through changes in their score. Then the core activity is tracking the impact of energy and water. So why does EPA focus on buildings? It turns out that over our nearly 3 decades of measuring, that almost all commercial buildings on average are wasting about 30% of the energy that they're paying for. So we've also learned that at virtually no cost or low cost, 10% savings are easily achievable. 30% savings are more of a lift. It's a return on investment, more of a strategic approach. Within Portfolio Manager, you're assessing the whole house of worship with regard to energy. It's an option as to whether you want to track water or whether you want to track solid waste. You can track your green power purchasing. It's set up so that you can easily share among your green team, or if you're part of a denominational or an interfaith effort, you can share with colleagues there. And most importantly, for your facility, you're tracking the changes in all of these, in energy, water. Your greenhouse gas emissions are calculated for you behind the scenes. And this is done by multiplying your kilowatt hours by the emissions factors reported to EPA by your electric utility. There are standard reports built into Portfolio Manager, and you can create custom reports. And it's within the tool that you apply for certification. An important feature here is that Portfolio Manager, with no effort on your part, is weather normalizing. It's comparing your energy use it's factoring out the weather. That is, it's looking at the weather, the degree days for the 12 months of your benchmarking. It's comparing that to 30 years of U.S. Weather Service data for your zip code, and therefore factoring out the weather. So you're actually seeing the impact of the efficiency of the building and the equipment without the weather impact. You can look at your water intensity is available. There's no water score, but you can see your water use per square foot, your waste intensity, your rate of diversion or recycling, and of course the greenhouse gas emissions. Just a quick look. These are some of the metrics. There are all kinds of ways to slice and dice your data once it's in Portfolio Manager. So I'll remind everyone, these slides will be available to you and you'll have my email. So I don't expect you to memorize this. Portfolio Manager, we have over 300,000 users of Portfolio Manager from all types of the private sector, nonprofits, faith community, you name it, schools, government, federal agencies are using it, other green certification programs, consumer information like TripAdvisor, competitions, and even the federal Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac for multifamily financing. Increasingly, local jurisdictions, as part of their climate programs, are passing local laws. EPA does not promote a non-voluntary approach, but we support it with Portfolio Manager, with training and technical support. Increasingly, cities are requiring benchmarking, typically in Portfolio Manager. They are also starting to require action and follow-up. Some cities, like New York, are going to start weighing fines for non-performance in 2024. So again, there's a lot of information here, but at the bottom, you see the link to finding the latest on what the requirements are locally. This is what your screen is going to look like as a Portfolio Manager user. There's a lot going on here that you can see at once. You have a tab for sharing with colleagues, for reporting, and then ultimately for recognition. There's key things you're going to be interested in is setting performance goals, tracking your performance goals, and seeing from month to month how you're doing as you update your utility billing data. Beyond just benchmarking, there are standard reports on the right hand, or some of the colorful graphs and charts that you can generate simply by clicking on a standard report. You can also customize your reports. You can create new templates. You can create data requests to other Portfolio Manager users and export your charts and graphs. A lot of this is important to explaining to your members of your congregation and your faith community what's going on, what's happening with their investment in improving efficiency or putting on solar. We have a new tool, the Building Emissions Calculator. Here's the link. I won't go into great detail, but it's working in concert with your Portfolio Manager data. Can even estimate your future emissions based on your trends. You can easily share information. You can decide what access level to share with your colleagues. And this could be someone across the country within the denomination, or someone in town who's a member of your congregation, or just across town in another house of worship. So you can determine what level someone can look at or share your data. Certification, you'll see here, again, starts at a 75 or higher. You apply within Portfolio Manager. For integrity, we require that a licensed professional, that is a registered architect or a professional engineer, verify the data. We will work with you to find free or pro bono verification. Your certification is for the calendar year in which you apply. If you choose to continue applying year after year, I mean, you're always good for 2020 or 2021. We don't take that away from you. It's always there. But we have houses of worship that continue to upgrade and continue to certify every year. We wanted to feature a new house of worship from our partner ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America. They have a green team. They did benchmarking for a number of their congregations. They found that the Islamic Center of Evansville, Indiana, scored high enough to achieve certification in 2021. So, and it's the second among ISNA congregations. And we're very proud of their work. And the ISNA Green Team is using those lessons learned to help others. Now, also, let it be said. And I'm proud. For a number of years, I've been able to be a judge of cool congregations for Interfaith Power and Light. And the Islamic Center of Evansville won an award in 2022. To get started in benchmarking, go find the data collection worksheet for the House of Worship. It's going to ask you for this information. This makes it easier so that when you sit down to open your account and to benchmark, you'll have everything at hand. So, and there's not a great deal of data required to get your score. There are a number of ways to get your utility data entered. I'll just leave it. Here's the URL at the bottom. But we also have at our training center a lot of how-to guides. The one featured on the right is how to get utility data into Portfolio Manager. And it's a step-by-step process explaining how to enter your utility data. We have others. We have the Portfolio Manager Quick Start Guide, how to benchmark a campus, the data collection worksheet, how to track electric demand if you're involved in tenant spaces, or how to benchmark on-site renewables. These are all PDF downloads at this training center, energystar.gov/buildings/training. This is a screenshot showing you can register for live online training we do every month. Here's all the how-to guides I just mentioned. We have YouTube demonstration videos. We have the recorded webinars are always saved, so at your convenience, you can go find them. And they're really all over the place. There's everything from solar and electric batteries and water conservation. It's not just energy. And then there are a lot of slides you can download. This is the other half of that screenshot. This is where we have a webinar series from Partners of the Year. This is information on compliance. And I'll mention that in these 45 or so cities, I was asked a couple of times, are houses of worship exempt? I've never seen any city that does exempt them. So the larger worship facilities in the given cities would be required to benchmark. So you need to go and see what's going on in your city. Historically, they've started off at 100,000 square feet, then go down to 50. But you have cities like Austin and Atlanta, San Francisco, that are in the 10,000 square foot, and New York City's gone down. So San Francisco, I think, requires all commercial buildings benchmarking. I'd note here on the lower left is a link to our highly rated by users, the help desk, and people usually get their answer in a couple of hours. So here's the link to Buildings Help, the help desk, and here's where you can go to sessions that are live on Ask the Expert, and those are wide open for whatever you want to do. I want to point out that your home can be benchmarked in Portfolio Manager now, but you can also use the Home Energy Yardstick to get a 1 to 10 score. It's very simple to use to give you an idea of how your home rates. Here's a link to, I think, 18 resources and programs across EPA that are designed or either very useful for houses of worship. Saving the Rain, it's for urban runoff and landscaping for congregations. The Guide to Purchasing Green Power. Safer Choice for the cleaning products used in the house of worship. This is an EPA branding program supporting healthy houses of worship. There are one-page summaries of asthma, idling, transportation issues like idling near your house of worship by buses and cars, all kinds of issues that may go on in the house of worship. Of course, water sense for efficiency. And here's the environmental justice screen. With your zip code, you can find out what kind of environmental issues may be going on in your community. Well, you've already seen this. We're very proud that Interfaith Power and Light is one of many, and I noted that almost all the co-sponsoring colleagues of today's presentation, and I see some of the people that joined in the chat, have co-branded. And this means we will accept your logo, your statement of partnership, the image you choose, and we will at no cost, of course, provide a PDF. And these days, and I think ISNA pioneered this, we actually provide the Word doc of the document, of the guide, so that any changes you'd like to make. We are federal government, we're not averse to the scripture of your faith community that points you towards sustainability and creation care, a full-page letter from the appropriate executive. So there's a lot of ways we can customize this for you and make it available. We have several types of recognition. We're launching Next Gen certified building. It's moving ahead with increased electrification and decarbonization. Launching March. We're open for comment through March 3rd, and then later in the 2024, we'll be launching Next Gen certification. Currently, if you're doing a major remodel or building a new facility, we have an architect on the staff who will work with your architect. So there's just a lot of ways in addition to certification. We also recognize tenant space. So if you have tenant space, we'll work with you on that. So here's my email address. I'll be happy to hear from anyone with follow-up questions. You can find most of the information or links to it from energystar.gov/congregations. And any individual congregation, any denomination, any interfaith, non-government group can join. So we hope you will become a partner. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jerry, Tom, and Sarah for those terrific presentations and that sharing of knowledge. We have some time for some questions and some answers. One question that I think I'll first pitch to Tom, and then Sarah, if you'd like to chime in too as well, that would be great. But there's been a lot of critical conversation and attention given over the past couple of years in the New York Times and the Guardian and other newspapers to carbon offset programs. So one question for you, Tom, is that something that your church engaged in addition to kind of what you're doing with the physical, your physical property? Have you engaged that as a strategy? And then Sarah, if the National IPL has advice and guidance on carbon offsets, we'd love to hear that as well. But Tom, would you first like to take a stab at that question? So you'll have to unmute yourself there.
We're holding the carbon offsets as a last resort. Once we get everything else done, there will no doubt be some more to be done, and depending on what our local utility is doing as far as their sources of power, we probably will have to go to carbon offsets. But you look at them and some of them are bogus. So you have to be careful with it, I think. And it takes a lot of research. I mean, for instance, somebody who's already preserving trees can put that property up as a carbon offset, and it doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't improve the situation. It just gets them some credit. So, you want to find some ways that are really truly doing some good before you get into it.
Thanks, Tom. Sarah, do you have any thoughts to add?
Yeah, I agree with Tom. It's the last thing that you do. First thing, energy efficiency. Next, renewables. And finally, carbon offsets, if it makes you feel better. And the thing about carbon offsets, you want to make sure that the money that you are investing in them is creating a new project. It has to be new. So that said, IPL does have some carbon offset program called Carbon Covenant, which consists of planting trees in Tanzania. It's a faith-based project, and you can find it from the Cool Congregations calculator when you click the offset button.
Jerry, we've got a couple of questions that kind of want to get at maybe soothing some anxieties about how difficult or complicated
Sure.
is this portfolio manager program? Is it the kind of thing you get started and then you only have to do a few minutes every month, or what all is entailed? And is there some professional hand-holding that can be done?
Yes, hand-holding is a term we use respectfully, and we do it. I see the questions. The way to start out is go find the data collection worksheet, get your information together. If you have that, it probably would take you an hour or so because it's new to you. Once you have it set up, it's about 15 minutes a month to update your data. Now, I want to offer that for IPL, and we've done this with some of you, if you want to gather, if you want to set up a webinar for us, we will invite your affiliates, your members, your congregants who have their data collection worksheet at hand to join us. My contractor will walk through so you can watch she has generic data for a house of worship. You can watch the creation of an account and filling it out. And we find that's very helpful to people. Now, we also take questions. You'll have my email address if you get stuck. And we have done hand-holding one-on-one. You know, anyone that's really going to make the effort, we're going to help them out in any way we can. Consequences of COVID, a question. To that end, we have often advised people if you may want to benchmark for 2019. And you will know best how hard hit your congregation was in 2020, 2021. You may want to have a 2019 baseline and then go from there, but it's up to you. Another reason maybe to create a baseline over 2 or 3 years is you may have done some significant upgrades in your efficiency or added solar or something during the period. And in order to capture what that did for your energy use and your greenhouse gas emissions, you would want to maybe start your baseline before you did this significant upgrade. Here's a question. If you apply in September, do you get Energy Star for 2023 or 2024? It's for the essentially the 12 months, the preponderance of the 12 months in which you apply. So if you had, in 2023 data going back 12 months, you ultimately would be a 2023 certification. But and if you have more details on that, we can handle an email on it.
Thank you, Jerry, for that response. Another question from the audience that could be addressed to, I think, any of you on some level, but Tom, you may have some, practical experience with this, is any advice or guidance that you might have for selecting contractors, who you might go to kind of get an assessment of kind of what can be done to improve your energy efficiency. Any thoughts or recommendations along those lines?
Well, you'll find energy auditors connected with various programs that you can probably find just by Googling them. Locally, we have one contractor that does remodeling work and is basically focused on, they call themselves Better World Builders, and they will do energy audits as well. We looked into it, found that it was extremely expensive. I had experience working as an energy auditor, so I pulled out my old reference books and started doing some calculations, and that's how we evaluated things. I would ask around the congregation. We've found people with an amazing amount of expertise within our congregation who've been able to help out with things, including on our HVAC system. One of the guys who's working on it used to run a university physical plant, and he knows everything. It's been amazing. And maybe some other congregations are lucky enough to have somebody like him.
Jerry or Sarah, anything you want to add to that? Have you seen that people are commonly turning maybe towards their local utilities or other things that you see that are kind of common and for what people are able to do in this regard?
Some utility companies require that you get their energy audit to take advantage of the rebates and incentives that they offer. So definitely check with your utility to see if they can help you out.
Yes, always check with your utility and ask if they have financial incentives. If not, why not? Because it's in their interest. I was a utility guy for years in Texas. Utilities shouldn't be looking at selling kilowatt hours. They should be looking at serving the most customers possible with existing infrastructure and plants. So it doesn't hurt to push on them and see what they have to offer and why they don't have more.
And the small municipal utility that served the community that I lived in Iowa often put together special incentives for small businesses, which is what they consider a church once they've made their visit to your building. So do reach out to them and see what they have for you.
Well, great. I think, one potential benefit of this webinar is that there could be some interest in starting a 2030 club for faith communities. Looks like there are some other faith communities. I know of some that have committed to 2030 goals, and I'm sure there's others. Of course, there's also 2030 districts for those of you who might be familiar with that national organization. But I think, a question that might be coming back to you, Tom, is as you think about that 2030 goal, if you could speak to kind of what you have seen as the benefits of having that kind of ambitious goal, but also I guess also some of the challenges, like the closer you get to 2030, is it getting like hard to figure out how you're going to shave off those percentage points and so forth and what's going to be done? If you could just speak to what it's like to have a goal like that.
Sure. The benefit of it is it's inspirational. I've had people, I mean, we're doing it all ourselves, right? And there are people who are on our building and grounds committee and others who have come in and said, what can I do? Can I help? I mean, we've got a lot of enthusiasm in the church. The downside is we don't know whether we'll ever make it, but it keeps you going. You have to strive for something, and I can't think of a better goal unless maybe we said we want to be a negative carbon emitter, but we'll go for zero first.
Can I just add that we have several inspirational stories of congregations that have already achieved 100% emissions reductions on the Cool Congregations webpage on the certification. They're certified 100%. So there's your club.
Wow, that's great. That's terrific to hear.
Can I add a little bit more? When we got our 20% certification from IPL, it was based on projections because we were in the middle of the pandemic. We were not occupying the building, so we couldn't really measure it. I've been looking at we started in-person services and regular operations in September. In comparison to the baseline of 2017 to 2019 utilities, our gas consumption is down 25% and our electric is down 37%. So I'm ready to apply for the next level, Sarah.
Great. Well, we're coming towards the end here. I think for just a final question, if you can give kind of a quick response, kind of what would be you form a team to kind of tackle this in your congregation. What would be kind of your first recommendations of things to do? You've got somebody designated for portfolio manager. Is there other things that people should be thinking about as kind of first steps in getting started, to just give them some encouragement? And if you have cookies to recommend for the first meeting, that's good too. But any other first steps or things that people should be considering to get going? Jerry, we can't hear you there.
Thank you. I'm going to put a link in the chat to the treasure map for worship facilities. It's a subset of a competition that's available to everyone, but it's about 6-7 pages of dense links and information on segmented by HVAC, lighting, water conservation, and it's everything in one place in a few pages. It can also be co-branded with a member organization. So I'll put that in the chat.
And I just wanted to remind people that the most important thing to getting this work done is to having a very strong green team that is able to communicate clearly to the rest of your congregation about what's going on so that they will support the plan. So please download that startup guide from IPL and get your green team started, and contact me if you have any questions. Programs at interfaithpowerandlight.org. Thank you.
If I can comment on that, I think the most important thing that we did in forming our task force was to make sure that we had people from other committees. So we had somebody from the Finance Committee, we had somebody from the Building and Grounds Committee, and people who have been around the church for a while and know the ins and outs of the politics, so you can get it done. Making the decision to put solar panels on the roof, which didn't have an immediate economic impact, but does 5 years from now, was a big deal for the board, and we had to have the support for it before it went forward. So don't forget that there are internal politics to your projects.
Thank you for those closing remarks and tips and bits of advice. As we bring things to a close, I want to evoke the well-known proverb, where there is no vision, the people perish. And I want to invite each of you in the audience to create your own proverb inspired by the wonderful speakers of this webinar. Finish the following sentence, and you can put it in the chat box. The sentence is, where there is a vision, what happens? So finish that sentence and put it in the chat box. I'd love to see how you finish it. Where there is a vision, tell us what your proverb is that you would like to write, inspired by today's webinar speakers and insights. Right. Faithfully persevere. All things are possible. Action. There is a future. Save the world. Much to be done. The next generation survives. I love everything I'm seeing here. This is great. I can tell we have done some hope generating and some vision crafting. Terrific. I love it. Success, seeing God at work, human energy thriving, creation care happening. Terrific. Thanks so much for that. I think we could create a compilation of proverbs newly created in this webinar. So thanks everybody for that. The plan moving forward is we're going to send out an email to everybody who registered for this webinar to get all of the resources that have been listed in the chat box and the things that have been shared by our presenters. We'll compile all that together and make sure people have it so that you've got it as kind of an ongoing toolkit for working within your congregations. So that is to come. And so now let me just kind of close with this. As we look at our newly created proverbs, let us therefore leave here today knowing that each of you is a conveyor of vision, each of you is a bearer of hope, each of you is a giver of life, each of you is a messenger and a bringer of energy. Each of you is caring for this common home of ours. Thank you so much for being here. Blessings to each of you. If you'd like to linger a little longer for further questions for those of our panelists who are able to stay a little bit longer, we'll just hang out here for a little bit more. But thanks so much for those of you who have joined us today, and we look forward to staying in touch as we move forward into this year. 8.